What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a super exciting Liverpool transfer news video, because yesterday evening the bombshell dropped that Alexander Isak has officially asked Newcastle for a transfer request. He wants to sign for Liverpool and he also asked not to go on Newcastle's pre-season tour to Asia. Multiple sources have told various journalists, including David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano and other reliable journalists, that Isak wants to leave Newcastle United, and the timing is terrible for Newcastle because they have tried to sign 7 or 8 different strikers without any success, and now it looks like they are going for Benjamin Šeško of Leipzig. We will talk about that story as well. And Newcastle, of course, want really big money for Alexander Isak, but even his Newcastle teammates are now expecting Alexander Isak to leave and to sign for Liverpool. So what do you think about this story? Leave your thoughts down below. I love reading your comments, and if I have time I will reply to some of your comments as well. And also make sure to leave a like on this video if you enjoy these, and subscribe if you don't want to miss out on the daily Liverpool transfer news updates. Let's get this video to 500 likes with your help. It's pretty clear that injury is not a reason why Alexander Isak hasn't traveled to Asia on Newcastle's preseason tour, because other Newcastle players who are injured have traveled with Newcastle on their preseason tour. And of course, Newcastle insisted that he was left behind because of an injury. But club sources inside Newcastle, who of course want to be anonymous, they said that they can't say this publicly, but he is staying behind because Alexander Isak wants to leave Newcastle. His head has been turned and he's not focused on Newcastle right now. And he hasn't trained for like a week or so. And Liverpool have previously officially communicated their interest to Newcastle, and Liverpool are willing to bid as much as £135 million. Of course, Newcastle want £150 million for Alexander Isak, but I think they can and they will negotiate a price that suits both Newcastle and Alexander Isak, and Newcastle will try to get this Šeško deal done before they sell Alexander Isak, because they don't want to end up in a situation where they sold Isak and they haven't brought in his replacements yet, so then every price will jump high, and this is an absolutely disastrous window for Newcastle United, and there is a reason for that. They don't have permanent sporting director, and basically the Saudi Arabian chiefs are operating Newcastle United at the moment, and not a proper sporting director, not a football expert is operating Newcastle's transfers at the moment. So that's why Newcastle are in such a mess, and the Newcastle fans are really upset with this situation, and I can empathize with them, because Newcastle have only signed 1 player so far in this summer transfer window, Anthony Elanga, even though they tried for like 10 different players, and it's like their goalkeeper target, James Trafford of Burnley. He's going to Manchester City. That's a brand new breaking story as well. Alexander Isak said to Newcastle, either give me £300,000 per week contract, or I want to leave and I want to explore my options in the transfer market. And Liverpool have so much room in terms of PSR headroom that we can spend another £200 million on top of the 270 million pounds that Liverpool already spent in this summer transfer window. We can spend another 200 million without selling players and still be in line with PSR rules and regulations. And remember that we are expected to sell Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez, Harvey Elliott, Tyler Morton, and maybe other players like Ben Doak as well. And Bayern Munich are preparing a bid for Luis Diaz. We will talk about that a little bit later as well. And Newcastle, of course, want to be an elite team, want to be an elite club, but right now they are not in that bracket. Mbeumo, Dilap, Pedro, Ekitike, and other players have moved on to, like Matheus Cunha as well, to clubs with a bigger reputation or a bigger fan base or more money who have more money than Newcastle, and Newcastle got rejected by 7 different strikers. That must sting, that must hurt a lot. And this can happen to any club. It happened to Liverpool with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it happened previously with Luis Suarez, Fernando Torres, Mascherano, Xabi Alonso. And Isak did not grow up a Newcastle fan who dreamt of scoring in front of the Newcastle fans. So you have to take it into account that Alexander Isak sees Newcastle as a step in his career, but not the final destination. That's the big difference. Liverpool are a final destination club where you end up going to win trophies, to win titles, and to play at one of the biggest clubs in the world. And Newcastle basically have to sell one of their star players if they want to move forward and get stronger. Sometimes you need to take a step back in order to move forward. That's what Liverpool did with Coutinho. We sold him for a huge amount of money. We reinvested that very smartly. And look at where Liverpool has evolved, what Liverpool evolved into since we sold Coutinho. So I think this makes a lot of sense financially. For Newcastle, the big question is, will the Saudi chiefs allow Newcastle to sell Alexander Isak? And I think Liverpool can do a deal of 135, 140 million pounds, mainly because Isak is pushing for his deal. Isak and his agent are pushing to go to Liverpool. But the Newcastle fans are very angry at Isak and his agent to leave this so late in the transfer window. I mean, it's not late in the transfer window, it's late in terms of the Premier League season is kicking off in 2 weeks. That's why Newcastle fans feel that this is very late, that Isak is doing this. Isak should have done this like 3 or 4 weeks ago, before Newcastle missed out on so many of their targets. But maybe Isak thought, let's see what Newcastle do in the transfer window. And then he sees that Newcastle only signed 1 player, Elanga, and missed out on 7 strikers. So Isak thought, this is not the club that I want to spend the next 2 or 3 years in. And you can fully understand why Isak wants to leave, because even behind the scenes, there is a lack of progress with, expanding the stadium, with building a new training ground, lack of additional sponsors to try and bridge the gap with the other top clubs. So Isak is seeing a club like Newcastle stagnating instead of moving forward and growing in this summer transfer window, because last season they improved, they won a trophy, they finished in the top 5, qualified for the Champions League, but Newcastle are already in pre-season, and Newcastle are still scrambling around in the transfer market to try and improve their squad. And maybe this is the transfer window that made Isak want to leave, because of the lack of success, of lack of transfers for Isak. And Louis Steele, who is a very reliable journalist with close sources inside Liverpool FC, he said that Liverpool have the money and now is a matter of if they want to make a bid or not. But I think Liverpool are preparing a bid right now. And Louis Steele said, if I were to put my money, I would say that Liverpool have to be pushing for this in the next couple of weeks. And if Liverpool are serious about it, then they can get their man. Because there is a price where Newcastle are going to sell, especially because the player is unhappy, the player wants to move. Newcastle don't want to keep Alexander Isak around, with him wanting to leave for like 5 weeks of the transfer window. And Liverpool are readying an official approach to Newcastle after Alexander Isak told the club that he wants to explore a move away. So Liverpool are readying a British record offer, which could be worth 125, 135 million pounds. That's what Louis Steele is reporting as well. And he said that if Liverpool go all out for Alexander Isak and put the money on the table, there is every chance that Newcastle will accept if Liverpool go high enough, and that Alexander Isak could become a Liverpool player this summer. I mean, if Liverpool sign Alexander Isak after signing Mamadashvili, Frimpong, Kerkez, Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, and then Isak, and if we sign Mark Guehi and Fofana, that is an absolute perfect transfer window. That honestly, I wouldn't imagine that there will be ever a transfer window like this in Liverpool's entire history going forward. And Alexander Isak is pushing actively now to leave Newcastle this summer. Liverpool, of course, spoke several times with the agent of Isak, with people close to Isak, and Liverpool are ready to make the bid. So Liverpool believe that if Newcastle will open the doors, they can really try to sign Isak. Fabrizio Romano said that it's going to be important to clarify Luis Diaz's situation as soon as possible. It's not only a technical point, it is also the financial point to raise some money from player sales, and then Liverpool can reinvest that money. And at the moment, Bayern Munich are ready a bid, which we will talk about in a second. But first I want to give you guys a quote from the Newcastle legend Alan Shearer. And he said about Isak has been brilliant for Newcastle, helped us achieve our dream of winning a trophy. If there is no way whatsoever that he can be persuaded to stay at Newcastle, then they have to get the best deal possible. And if someone is prepared to pay what Newcastle want, then you have to say, thank you, Isak, and you have to build for the future. And I think that's a very sensible attitude from Alan Shearer, who is, of course, a pundit and a Newcastle legend. And the Saudi side, Al Hilal, is also keen on signing Alexander Isak. But Isak is not interested in going to Saudi Arabia. He's at the peak of his career. He's 25. He can go to Saudi in like 6 or 7 years and still get a huge amount of money. And Newcastle players have broken their silence on the future of Alexander Isak, because Mail Sport spoke to Bruno Guimaraes and Dan Burn at the preseason tour, and Burn was asked if he could understand Isak's desire to further his career elsewhere. He said, listen, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I think we can just control what we can control. That's a question for Alexander Isak to answer. He's obviously a big player for us, but we do have a lot of quality in the squad as well. And bringing Anthony Elanga in as well, which I think was a great signing. Alex hasn't trained with a thigh issue that's been ongoing since he has been back that first few days. And Guimaraes said, I'm really close to him. He's a good guy, Alexander Isak. He has been through some rough things at this moment. My focus is with the lads. Isak is something I cannot control. The club has control of it. I hope he's going to be fit when we come back to Newcastle to prepare for the new season. So Bruno Guimaraes expects Isak to stay away for the whole preseason tour of Asia of Newcastle. They told us he was there in Newcastle because of his injury, Bruno Guimaraes continued. Of course, he's a top player for us. He's going to be a miss on this trip. We need him ready as soon as possible. And Guimaraes said Newcastle are still in the market and looking for new options. But we have had success before and we can have success again. I'm more focused on the players we have here. My job for the club is to try to keep the lads motivated. We have to be calm and patient. We know the directors are working the markets. We have Elanga, who surprised me a lot in training, unbelievable. And then Burns said, you always want to reinforce and bring in players. It's nice to keep the squad fresh. But as I said, for us as a team, as a staff and players, it's about controlling what we can control. But Alexander Isak was told that the salary that he wants at Newcastle and expected, which was £300,000 per week, that would not be coming from Newcastle. They cannot afford that salary. And that's an accountancy decision, but one that failed to account for the human reaction at the end of it. Because basically Newcastle told Isak, you are not getting that type of money here. And Isak was said to be furious. That's according to a Newcastle-based journalist, Craig Hope, I think that's his name. Yeah, working for the Mail Sport news outlet. And Eddie spoke last season of an unsettled dressing room. And this was one of the reasons why. Because Newcastle couldn't afford to pay some of their top players top salaries. And the players, like Alexander Isak, for example, they wanted and they still want new signings, but also a new training ground and tangible signals of intent and progression and signs of ambition. That's what the Newcastle players want to see, especially Alexander Isak. He wants to be surrounded by a top team, a top players, so he has more chance of challenging for the title, challenging for the Champions League. And so far, Newcastle only signed Elanga, so no wonder Alexander Isak got fed up and said, I want to leave. Even though Newcastle won the League Cup, it's their first trophy in like many years, but Alexander Isak has higher ambitions than winning the League Cup once with Newcastle, that's for sure. And now Newcastle are exploring a deal for Benjamin Šeško. I think they want this Šeško deal to be done before they sell Alexander Isak. So I think that they would try to bid around 65 million euros or pounds, depending on how high they want to go. But also Liverpool are expected to receive a 70 million euro bid for Luis Diaz with an additional 10 million euros in add-ons and bonuses from Bayern Munich. That will be apparently their final bid, 80 million euros, which is like 65 million pounds. So I think Liverpool should accept this. We don't want to upset Luis Diaz too much, and we don't want to upset Bayern Munich too much. I think 80 million euros for Luis Diaz is a good offer that Liverpool should accept, because we need to move forward and we need to start selling some big players in order to afford Alexander Isak, and also to go for Mark Guehi, and Fofana will be signed when Chiesa finalizes his move to the Serie A. Apparently Atalanta is selling Lookman, and they will want to sign Chiesa as his potential replacement as well. So what do you think about all these transfer stories and news? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. See you later, guys. Goodbye.